Welcome, apprentices and acolytes, and today we're gonna go over the anniversary 4 years ago of The Mandalorian. Ready up.
Ready up. My destiny.
Apprentices and acolytes, it's so good to see you today. Fam, you know I had to talk about The Mandalorian 4 years ago. Baby. Count 'em, man. It's so good to see y'all. And you know, you can only come in and talk about this in one place. That's right. Inside the Dark Temple, visited by Mara Jade, Luke Skywalker, and Kyle Katarn, and so many of the Force sensitives like yourself. I am Lord Dagavir, and it's so good to see you, fam. But yeah, you know, we also like our non-Force sensitives too. Come on, come up in here. There's a little spot or two. Come on, sit down, enjoy yourself, and prepare for the knowledge. That's right. 4 years ago, where were you? Where were you watching the first episode of The Mandalorian? Man, I remember it literally every other day because The Mandalorian to me is one of my favorite Star Wars projects. I mean, it was the best. In my opinion, it was the best Star Wars anything for a time for me, just because I feel like it is so difficult, so hard to replicate the success of, you know, the original trilogy, you know? And it's in this age, and with modern marketing, with how many things are coming out, there's so many streaming services, there's so many movies, there's so many franchises, there's so many remakes, and often in this day and age, something happens and then after the week, it's gone. You know, like Loki just ended, you know? So, yeah, you know, Loki ended on Thursday, and now I feel like the hype that it's ending is already gone now, and everyone's kind of focusing on whatever else they're going to focus on next. So, it's close to the end of the year, if you think about the video game awards, you know, all these things are happening. So, yeah, it's really hard for entertainment industry, something to just grasp the entire audience of entertainment. And The Mandalorian did that. I always talk about how I feel like The Mandalorian had one of the greatest achievements in all of Star Wars and entertainment because everyone knew who Baby Yoda was. Baby Yoda, right? So let me tell you this, all right? To me, as a marketing manager, right, branding is everything. Branding is everything. And there are three things in this world that I feel like have the greatest branding of all time, okay? It's McDonald's, all right? It's Mickey Mouse, and it's Pokemon. And it does not matter what generation that you are from, if you look at the McDonald's M or Ronald McDonald, whatever it is, there are so many people that know who or what that is. Pikachu, Pokemon, okay? It does not matter what generation you are from, everybody knows what Pikachu looks like, who Pikachu is. They may not know who Pokemon is. It may just be, all right, yeah, that's Pokemon, that's Pikachu, that's it. But they know who Pikachu is, right? Mickey Mouse. Everybody knows who Mickey Mouse is. Everybody. Even if you've never gone to Disney, you know who Mickey Mouse is, right? Baby Yoda, Grogu was up there. There were people, kids, children, wives, girlfriends that never liked Star Wars, never cared about Star Wars. And they all knew who Baby Yoda was. And Baby Yoda, it was also chicken nuggies and chalky milk. That was the thing. And that's how you knew Star Wars was doing something right in terms of branding. Everybody wanted a piece of what was happening in The Mandalorian because of that. That was the bridge. That was the gateway, right? That was the gateway. You enter that gateway because of Grogu, because of Baby Yoda, and then you go and you watch everything else. And I could not tell you how many people knew that I was a Star Wars guy. I was the Star Wars guy. And because I was the Star Wars guy, they were asking me, oh my gosh, you know, I want to see The Mandalorian, but do I need to know anything about Star Wars? No, just jump right in. Get into it right now. Watch The Mandalorian. Enjoy it. Have fun. Who cares where it is in the timeline? Who cares about Darth Vader and all these other characters that we know and love? Just get into it. Enjoy it. Then ask me questions. Then I'm going to help you get obsessed with Star Wars because that's why I made this channel. That's why I love it. And there's a lot more people now that watch it because of The Mandalorian. You know, yeah, maybe they didn't watch the Book of Boba Fett. You know, maybe they only watched The Mandalorian. You know, but dude, it's awesome how incredible The Mandalorian was. And that first episode, something about it, man. Even when I go back and watch the first episode, there's a magic there. There's a magic to it that I can't shake off, man. Even in season 2, everyone talks about like, oh, well, you know, I don't know about season 2 because it was such a bigger story and everything was connected and everything was like, oh, this character and attached so many things from the cartoons and the animated series and the expanded universe. Yeah, whatever. I loved season 2. I think season 2 is perfect. I don't care. I think season 2 is perfect. All right? I think it is perfect. With the combination of season 1 into season 2 as an expanded universe fan, for me, it did everything I've ever dreamed of in Star Wars. And then Ahsoka does it as well with, you know, Anakin Skywalker coming back, World Between Worlds. I've needed that for so many years. Those to me are the greatest anything in Star Wars. As a Revenge of the Sith fan, as a Return of the Jedi fan, oh my gosh. Always dreaming about Luke Skywalker coming to see, and you see a little bit, just, it's not even peak Luke Skywalker, right? It's not even prime Luke Skywalker. He's not even there yet. And how he looks in The Rescue, right? And so, when I think of the first episode, you know, and they're on the snow planet, and Mando is just sitting there with his fob, and you hear it bing, you hear the ping every time, and he's walking into that little cantina, and you finally get a good look at him for the first time. Even with, maybe some of the sets are outdated, right? Maybe some of the CGI is a little outdated. Just because how fast things evolve in this entertainment industry. I don't know, man. The Razor Crest, the theme song. Oh my god, the soundtrack. Queel, like amazing characters, fantastic dialogue. I remember watching those 2 episodes, and everybody was talking about Mandalorians, Baby Yoda, right? Because it wasn't Grogu then. Baby Yoda, and I Have Spoken. That's what it was. That's what it was, bro. Oh, this is the way. Like, it was such a it was a religion. Funny enough, you know, because Mandalorian's in the religion. It was a religion. You could not go anywhere with a Star Wars short without someone telling you, this is the way. Like, this is the way, bro. Man, that was such a time to be alive too, because Rise of Skywalker hadn't come out yet. You still had like 8 weeks, I think, before everyone was still anticipating that it was going to be a good movie. You know, I mean, maybe it was for you, but for me, it was okay, and it just wasn't. It wasn't a culmination of 40 years of Star Wars to me. That's why I didn't really appreciate it as much as everyone else. But The Mandalorian still, even with the Rise of Skywalker, was phenomenal. In the buildup of those weeks, right? Those 8 episodes going in, one after another, man, everything. Third episode, 4th episode. And everyone always talks about, you know, it was a little slow. Yeah, whatever, man. You know, I get it. You know I just had that in my criticism about Andor, because to me, Andor was really slow in the first 2 episodes. The third one it picked up, but the reason why Andor for me was so slow is because I didn't know any of the characters. I didn't know what the hell was going on. I just knew about Cassian. You know, and Cyril and everyone else, they become more pivotal characters to that story, but it's only that story that is happening with everything else that's happening in the galaxy. It's completely separate, and these are original stories. You know, it's not like The Mandalorian season 2, you know, where everything is connected, everything's going on. Mandalorian season 3, oh my god, there's so much happening. You know, Ahsoka, oh my gosh, there's so much happening. You know, The Mandalorian was in its own verse. And so it was also, mind you, I think people are forgetting about this too when we talk about The Mandalorian compared to Andor. It was also the first official Star Wars TV series, guys. You know, there was no, like, there wasn't, yes, there were Star Wars grifters, right? There were Star Wars bad faith content creators back then, of course, because of the sequel trilogy, and we know how divisive the sequel trilogy is, right? But The Mandalorian was like an era where the first season and the first couple episodes where we all were just like, oh my god, Star Wars is back. Star Wars never left, okay? Maybe for you, but not for me. But it was like that era where I was like, oh my gosh, man, it is happening. Star Wars TV, fam. Let's go, bro. Can I get a let's go in chat? That's how it was for me, and I feel like that's how it was for a lot of other people. I remember going to Universal, because I live here in Orlando, going to Universal and going around City Walk, and I had a Mando shirt, and it was so funny because, you know, usually when you go around in those areas, you know, Universal doesn't really like Disney, and they're very vocal about it. You know, they're not the nice, cutesy Disney stuff. Guests, you know, always trying to please you. They'll say exactly what's on their mind sometimes. I remember all the security guards were looking at me, and, you know, they all wanted to talk about The Mandalorian. So you know me, I just won't shut up about Star Wars, especially when someone asks me. And that was a time where I wasn't as afraid of talking about Star Wars that I was now. Today in public, I pretend like I don't know much about Star Wars unless someone knows their stuff. Then I talk to them, and if I feel like I can have opinions about why this is great, you know, and why things are overhated, then I'll converse with this person. But back then, it was excitement, man. It was a lot of excitement. It was brand new, man. It was electric. It was electric. And walking into the security area, like the TSA area, essentially, where before you get in, you get scanned before you got to go into City Walk, and that's where Islands of Adventure, Universal is, all the entertainment stuff is. You walk in there, and everyone's like, yeah, bro, this is the way, bro, this is the way. And I was like, yeah, you know, that's weird. I love it. It's so cool to see everyone that loves Star Wars now, you know? Because, you know, I grew up in the prequel days, and people hated the prequels, you know? And then now we all love the prequels, so everything's changing. Always changing. And like I said, it's always really interesting to see that so many people had friends and family that loved the prequels. No, that was not me. Everybody hated the prequels. Everybody hated the prequels. Everyone I talked to could not stand the prequels. It was always what their parents said. Jar Jar's stupid. This isn't Star Wars. It's the same thing that we get to see and reiterate all the time on YouTube thumbnails and Twitter, everywhere else now these days. It's the same thing. And with The Mandalorian, it was just everybody had a Mandalorian shirt. Everybody had a Grogu shirt. Everybody had a Baby Yoda shirt. Everybody had a This Is the Way shirt. You know, I have spoken. Self-destruct? Yes, I'm gonna engage self-destruct from IG-11, you know? Like, it was culture. Like, it was culture in that time, man. It was fucking nuts. Oh man, I dropped an F-bomb. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I get really excited. I'm so sorry I did that, my bad. Yeah, it was nuts. Damn, man, I can't believe I did that. So, yeah, it was just really exciting, man. And even to this day, like, even when I go back and look, and I look about all the criticisms of, you know, The Mandalorian through The Mandalorian Season 3, and I know that probably most of the criticism is probably with Mandalorian Season 3 because, yeah, Bo-Katan is like the main character, but man, I don't care, dude. I actually like that because, yes, I love Din. I love Din. I think Din has probably some of the best branding in Star Wars, just because of the way he looks, how many people want to see Mando. And I didn't care about Bo-Katan. It's not even that I didn't like her, it's just I didn't think anything of her, right? But Bo-Katan, in this, Bo-Katan, I always like shifting the names. Bo-Katan, because of Bo-Katan, yeah, I like her now. I love that character because of the scope that was, they focused so much of her on Season 3. And now I care. Now I give a shit. I care a lot about Bo-Katan, and I want to see more about Bo-Katan, all right? And then Boba was in, Season 2. But the first season for Mando, before, you know, Boba was introduced, before Cobb Vanth was introduced, before Ahsoka was introduced, you know, Casca Reeves, all these characters, Mandoverse sat there, and it is so strong on its own. Even to this day, even with all the criticisms, I still think The Mandalorian is, in my opinion, all right. So I got favorites, and I'm gonna have a tier list come out in the next couple of weeks when I'm not too crazy busy and I come back from New York and Anime NYC. To me, The Mandalorian is the greatest Star Wars project ever. And I know a lot of people are going to be, well, nuh-uh, it's Return of the Jedi, it's Empire Strikes Back, it's Revenge of the Sith, it's the original trilogy. Yes, I don't disagree with you. But to me, in the era that I've grown up from the prequel trilogy and I've seen the criticisms of every movie, right? The Mandalorian, to me, had the least amount of criticism of everything that I've absorbed in Star Wars. You know, and I'm not talking about video games or expanded universe stuff. I'm talking about live action / movie stuff. The Mandalorian was it. That first season, there was so much. And I remember too that I remember I made this one video back in the day, and I just literally just had Mandalorian walking in an infinite loop to Carpenter Brut. All right, that if you guys know that that artist for music, you're amazing. Bonus points for you. And I just had it because it was the synth wave, you know. It was really sick, and then the aesthetic of the Mandalorian made me feel like it was like late 70s, early 80s. Awesome stuff. And so I just wanted to make a music video type of deal for that. And I remember everything was so positive back then. This was like only like after the first 3 episodes. everything was so positive. Even to the people that we know criticize Star Wars to this day for anything, you know? One guy commented on it, and he was just like, this is the most abysmal show ever. It's so bad. It's so terrible. It's the worst thing since the prequels. And I'm just, you know, and at that moment, you know, I'm just like, I don't know what's so compelling to this, like, what's so compelling for this person to continuously hate on something, you know. And since the prequels, okay, so at this point you've been disconnected from Star Wars since the prequels. That's a very long time, you know. That's about 20 years, 15 years. So maybe it's time just to not look at it at all. But at the same time too, I feel like that's unraveling the mystery of why we're gonna hate continuously and engage with something we don't like, which I think is a human problem. And you know, but it is what it is. But I knew back then, like, it wasn't as valid. It wasn't anywhere near as valid as it is today, with the criticisms of like, okay, yeah, you know, Mandalorian is really cool, but I want to go back to it being on its own thing. I think that is probably the most valid criticism of the Mandalorian, because yes, now you have a character, Din Djarin, and his character with Grogu, and you see the way his journey has evolved with Grogu, and then he gives him away. Right, he elects to have Grogu grow up with Luke Skywalker. And so from that point on, the speculation is insane about, oh my gosh, you know, maybe down the road we're gonna have a new sequel trilogy of Grogu and him training to be a Force sensitive, you know, or whatever it is. And then of course Book of Boba Fett, and just null and voids all of that. Just completely null and voids all of that. Nope. They're getting reunited today, you know? And yeah, that's a decision, whatever. You know, it is what it is now. And Mandalorian Season 3, I actually feel like fixes that, because now they're just chilling together. I mean, Grogu's got the training of Luke Skywalker, is all the knowledge of everything from his past, right? From 50 years ago into Order 66. And then now he's just chilling with his dad on his front lawn on Saturday mornings, you know? So the story can continue there. And I think the story doesn't need to continue anytime soon. And I think that's the beauty of it, because now it takes me all the way back to, you know, The Rescue. Right? Mandalorian Season 2. But I think that's the most valid criticism by far. Absolutely. But outside of that, you know, with the connective stories, you know, like we had gone over earlier, you know, Mandalorian Season 3, it is what it is. I don't have any major issues with it. I just don't think it's as good as the first two seasons. But I think it's still great. I think it's awesome. I would probably rank it 7.5, 8 out of 10. You know, even though I didn't like it as much as the other two seasons, but I think it's still overall the best Star Wars media still. And I don't think anything can excite people as much as a new season of The Mandalorian. So I just think about what The Mandalorian has done for us. What The Mandalorian is. You know, you go from expanded universe fans, hardcore expanded universe fans, to seeing you know, a Mandalorian outside of Boba Fett, and then seeing an enclave of Mandalorians who are literally scavengers trying to frickin' survive everything that's going on, and then seeing live action Mandalorians, the entire enclave flying in live action like it's an episode of Clone Wars. That was amazing, man. That was so cool. Yeah, man, just a lot. There was just so much. And then don't even get me started on Season 2, you know? Because Season 2 to me was perfect. Even to this day, I'm not sure if there's ever gonna be anything that hits in every single episode like The Mandalorian Season 2. I love Ahsoka. Ahsoka to me is my favorite, okay? It is my there's a difference between favorite and best, and I just think The Mandalorian is the best, but Ahsoka series is my favorite. Does that make sense? Because the Ahsoka first two episodes, yes, they were slow, and I feel like there's a lot more that they could have done, but they had to get the rest of the audience, you know, introduced and to the understanding of the characters that we know, as Sabine and Ahsoka, you know, Ghost Squadron, whatever, you know, all the stuff with Hera and everybody else. So that's the reason why those two episodes exist that way. And yeah, sure, there's some criticisms and stuff that I'm probably gonna make a video about later about Ahsoka. There's questions that need to be answered, and I'm not sure if we're ever gonna get those questions. But it's still my favorite. But The Mandalorian, first season, and what it's done for, I feel like, for Star Wars TV, man, Because I tell you one thing, man. It doesn't matter where I am, fam. Mandalorian Season 1 can bring me in warm, or it can bring me in cold. Because that stuff is so good, man. God, bro, this is the way, dude. I feel like I'm gonna watch it right after this. I have to watch it. And if you're listening to this anywhere, whether it's YouTube or anywhere where podcasts are heard, please let me know, what's your favorite episode of The Mandalorian, and what do you love most? Yeah, and of course, I know the negative comments are always going to come, so I'm not even gonna ask, because they're just gonna be there no matter what, fam. But it doesn't matter where you are inside the galaxy, you know you can always talk about The Mandalorian and other Star Wars projects here, inside the Dark Temple, visited by Mara Jade, Luke Skywalker, and Kyle Katarn, and so many of the Force sensitives like yourself. I am Lord Dagavir, and I'll see you around, fam. Deuces.